of one of the first Father's Day presents my youngest daughter gave me. It was this ceramic painted mug with her tiny little hands kind of pressed against it. I think she must have been 3 or something when she gave it to me. I loved that mug. I loved the mug because her hands were on it. I loved the mug because of the colors of it. I loved the mug because she was so proud of what she had created. I loved that mug. And today, it looks something like this. I took the mug to my office in New Hampshire, and it was my daily coffee mug. And one morning I came in, and it was in that state on my desk. There was a note attached to it. Our cleaning person had knocked it off my desk by accident and shattered it. And I was heartbroken. But there have been other Father's Days, and Quinlan is a forgiving daughter, and so just 3 years ago, almost to this date, 3 years ago, she gave me a combination Father's Day gift and office warming present. She gave me another ceramic piece that she had painted. This time it was a tie. It was painted in red with blue polka dots. It had Red Sox written on it, and I loved this tie. I loved it because it reminded me of her every time I looked at it. I loved it because it reminded me of the passion that we shared, the Red Sox. I loved it because she had created it again and entrusted another of her creations to me. I loved this tie, and today it looks like this. I think it survived maybe the first 2 months on my desk before I came in and I put my laptop on it and it snapped in two. I tried to glue it, but it didn't take. And I was so you know. But truth be told, even sadder for me than the sight of these broken gifts was the sight of my daughter's face when I had to tell her, not once but twice, I had actually broken the gifts that she had entrusted to me. Her face was crestfallen. She was devastated, as I think you all can imagine. Today's first lesson is from the book of Job. It's a classic exchange between Job and God. It's an exchange between Job, who is angry, who is questioning, who is struggling, and God, who is loving and awesome, but a little bit impatient with Job's question. It's an exchange that gets at the heart of the matter of where is God when bad things happen to good people? It's a hard question to answer, isn't it? It's an exchange that really seems to be perfectly timed given what has just happened in Charleston, South Carolina. The unspeakable violence and bigotry and loss of life that's happened down there. I feel moved to preach on that even more when I look at Mark's Gospel. And did you hear that line as the waves are crashing on the boats and the disciples, they look at Jesus and they say, "Do you not care that we are perishing?" The two seem to go together. The questions that Job has for God and the questions that the disciples have for Mark. And that combined with what's happening in South Carolina seems to just invite an opportunity to preach on, so where is God when these terrible things happen? But I'm actually not going to preach on it. I am happy to take a stab at that question after church. I think I've preached on that very question at times before. But today, actually, my thoughts were not drawn to that particular aspect of the dialogue between Job and God. because another news story came out this week that kind of gave me a different lens as I read Job. On Thursday, the Pope's encyclical was released regarding stewardship of the environment and our care of the earth. And when I read that encyclical, and when I read some of the reactions to it, it gave me a different lens to read these words that God speaks to Job. Listen again. As God says to Job, "Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Or who laid its cornerstone when the morning stars sang together and all the heavenly beings shouted for joy? Or who shut in the sea with doors when it burst out from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment and the thick darkness its swaddling band?" It's a rhetorical question, but implicit in that question is the reminder that God is the creator of our earth. God's hand is in this planet that we walk. God's force is in all that we enjoy here on this earth. That's the point of it. And I was moved to imagine how heartbroken God must be to see what we've made of this clay creation that's been entrusted to us. And if God has a face, then I've got to believe that God's face looks not unlike the face of my daughter when I told her that I had broken her gift to me. Now look, I have a confession for you, and it's a little bit embarrassing, but hey, I've been with you for 3 years. It's not the first time I've embarrassed myself in front of you. Here's my confession. I've been a priest for 22 years, and in those 22 years, I have never, not once, preached on environmental stewardship. Not once. It's not that it's not important in the Episcopal Church. It is every bit as important in our tradition as it is the Catholic tradition. It's just, truth be told, not been something that has grabbed me. Maybe it's because it's too abstract, or too sort of amorphous. Maybe it's because I care and lock in on people more. I don't know. Those are all just excuses. The point is, I've never preached on it before. This is not in my wheelhouse, as they say. But I am moved to consider this issue with open eyes and open hearts and an open mind. The Pope's encyclical speaks to me, speaks to all people of faith, whether they be Catholic or Episcopal or Baptist or even Jewish. And I shared with a friend of mine yesterday that I was thinking about preaching on this topic. And this is a grown woman, and do you know what she did? She literally jumped up and down and said, "Oh my God, that's exactly why I'm a Christian." Because of her profound understanding that God is in creation. She gave this quote from Wendell Berry. Have you ever heard of Wendell Berry? Some of you. He's a simple Kentucky farmer who's also a brilliant writer and a poet and a deeply faithful Christian. And Berry writes in one of his essays, "We will discover that the creation is not in any sense independent of the Creator. Creation is God's presence in creatures. We will discover for these reasons that our destruction of nature is not just bad stewardship, it is flinging God's gifts back into His face as if they were of no worth." Now, look, I don't think you have to believe that Genesis speaks of a historical fact to appreciate that God had a hand in creation. I don't think you have to be a creationist to honor God as the Creator. And I think that Barry is on to something here. How we live into our faith stress every bit as much as how we live into this planet as it is and how we treat one another. Because if we're going to honor God as the Creator, then when we abuse and mistreat that which God has created, we are abusing and mistreating the Creator as well. And it's a hard thing to get your hands around. It's not easy for me. Now, I know that, because I've been listening to the pushback about this week, about this encyclical, I know that people get nervous when we start talking about climate change. I know that there is still some dispute in science about this, although there certainly seems to be a pretty significant consensus now that climate change is related to human behavior. And I know that anything that hints of the blending of religion with politics is the third rail for preachers. I get that. Don't worry. I am not educated enough to talk about public policy. But my brothers and sisters, this is a faith issue here. This really is a matter of faith. What we do with this planet we inherited. God said to Job, were you there when I laid the cornerstone? No, it was God who laid the cornerstone. Were you there when I put the doors on the ocean? No, it was God who was there when the doors were put on the ocean. This is a faith matter. The Pope's got some brilliant things to say in his encyclical, 184 pages long. You should read it. All right, maybe not all of it. But listen to some of what he said. This stuff, you can't argue. He said, look, we are not God. The earth was here before us and was given to us. And he went on to say that the climate is a common good belonging to all and meant for all. And then finally, as his encyclical covered everything from climate change to economics to consumerism to our development of technology, which has far outpaced a development of an ethics for that technology. Finally, he said this: we are not faced with two separate crises, one environmental and one social, but rather one complex crisis, which is both social and environmental. These things are all related. How we manage our economy, how we manage our relationships, how we care for this planet, it is all one issue. It's a faith issue. I am not equipped to talk about how we can address this crisis. I want to be honest with you, this sermon is the start of a conversation. It's not a total conversation. But I think we need to be talking about it. I think that this is the very place where we should be wrestling with it because it's a faith issue. Because God challenges us to be good stewards of what God has entrusted to us. In the encyclical, there was a call to action. The Pope came up with 10 commandments for climate change. I want to share with you just a few of those commandments. The first thing he said was, think of future generations as you move about this earth. He also said, consider pollution's effect on the poor. Because what we're doing to this planet disproportionately affects those who are in economically impoverished setting. He said, be humble. He said, educate yourself. And he said, believe you can make a difference. Now, I don't think that just following those commandments is going to solve this crisis, but it's a good place to start. So I am mindful that I dwell on an earth that our God has made. I am mindful that God has given me a gift, dominion over it, but not domination of it. I am mindful that I have chance after chance to decide how I'm going to care for it. I am mindful that I can change my ways. I am mindful that if I do change my ways, that just maybe God will smile upon me just as my daughter smiles every time she sees me drink from this cup. Her latest